Are the New York Knicks trading Julius Randle? Doesn't sound like it. You're watching New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. In today's show, we're going to break down a report coming from Michael Scotto over on HoopsHype. He sat down with Ian Begley and Stefan Bondy. That link to that article is in the comment section if you want to go check that out. We'll talk about Julius Randle and what they had to say. Then on the tail end of the show, we're going to break down reports coming out around Josh Hart and how much he is potentially going to be paid with the New York in NBA free agency, and if it will be by the New York Knicks. But first, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, because if a Julius Randle trade happens or the New York Knicks re-sign Josh Hart, we are going live here on the channel. Knicks offseason coverage, better than anyone else out there. Videos every single day on the latest Knicks news and rumors. If that's what you're looking for, hit that sub button right now. That's what Michael Scotto had to say. And we got to have a conversation here between Scotto, Bondy, and Begley. We'll go through that. Scotto says, in talking with Knicks brass in the front office, they value Julius Randle's toughness and his ability to stay on the floor. He's played 71 or more games in 3 consecutive seasons and been an all-star 2 of the past 3 seasons, which is something I think is notable in the load management era. Also was a 2-time All-NBA player in the past 3 seasons. And then Bondy responded to that and said, in terms of listening to trade offers, I'm sure the Knicks are going to listen to whatever is told to them this offseason, but I don't think there's going to be a situation where they hear something and say that's something we've got to pull the trigger on with Randle. Then Begley backdoored that and said, I'm with both of you guys on the chances of a trade happening, which aren't high. I think it's only going to happen if he's part of a package where you're bringing in a top player that's head and shoulders above Randle. And unfortunately, I agree with Begley, Bondy, and Scotto. I don't think the New York Knicks are going to trade Julius Randle unless it is for an upgrade in the starting lineup. And I understand, although I don't agree with the line of thinking. I mean, look at what he's done in New York. The past 4 seasons, he's played in more than 64 games. He's available. 25, 10, and 4 is what he gave you this year on great efficiency. In 2020, he gave you 24, 10, and 6. Down year in 2021, but he bounced back this year and was once again an All-NBA player, making the 3rd team there. He's great in the regular season. At least he has been twice with the New York Knicks. He just kind of isn't that same player in the NBA playoffs. In the 2 seasons we're looking at that he made the playoffs, the first year with the Atlanta Hawks, against the Atlanta Hawks where they lost in 5, and the second year where they made it to the semifinals, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers and losing the Miami Heat. His efficiency is just way too low. I mean, 30% from the field the first go-around, second go-around, 37%. Also having just as many turnovers, if not more, than assists. He is not living up to the bill and what he's done in the regular season, the postseason. I'm not going to talk about that too much. Everyone already knows that. But I think the Knicks also know they won't get equal value in a trade for Julius Randle. He seems like he's the only guy that's made an All-NBA team twice out of the last 3 years that if you traded him, you wouldn't be getting the maximum value back. You'd be trading him for pennies on the dollar, and I don't think that's something that the New York Knicks and Leon Rose are going to entertain. You hear this front office with Brock Auer and all these guys talk about value. They value value. And what I mean by that is there's no reason to sell low on value when you think that a player can rebuild that value. And we saw Randle do that this year. It's kind of tanked a little bit in the NBA playoffs. Bondy also said this about Randle. He said, there are clear issues with his attitude and the way that he has handled criticism and how he's looked at in the locker room, I think. If that is true, and he is looked at in the locker room in a negative lens, that is a problem. And that starts from up top. That starts with management, and that starts with coaching. That starts with Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau. And Thibodeau, look, you're going to lose this locker room. We heard Reggie Bullock go on the, who's the player on the Mavs that has a podcast? Theo Pinson. Thank you, producer Coop. Theo Pinson has a podcast, and they had Reggie Bullock on there, and they were talking about Tom Thibodeau, how you're not going to play for Tom Thibodeau if you don't play defense. And then Theo Pinson goes, unless you're Julius Randle. Like, everybody knows that, and that's a problem. And every player, no matter how good you are, needs to be held to the same set of circumstances. Tom Thibodeau has to do a better job of holding Julius Randle accountable. We saw him do it in the playoffs. I believe it was Game 4 or Game 5 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. They didn't play in that fourth quarter. And I'm obviously not happy the guy got benched, but I thought he deserved it. He wasn't playing well. He was giving you lackluster effort, and the Knicks went on to win that ball game. Look, it's not Randle's team anymore. It's Jalen Brunson's team. You need to hold everybody accountable. You're going to lose this locker room, man. You really, really are. I do want to say this. Trading Randle seems unlikely for the New York Knicks. They value. We talked about that. I just don't see a trade where the Knicks would trade Julius Randle for 2 role players unless they make another big trade not involving Randle and they give up a lot of pieces. Like, let's say they make a trade for a superstar. I don't know who that is, not saying. So let's say they make a trade for a superstar and they have to give up a Quickly or a Grimes or a Baird or a Toppin or some type of combination of those guys, and that leaves them thin on the back end of the roster. I could then see them trading Randle to kind of lengthen and depthen that rotation a little bit. But just a swap of Randle as your only move this offseason, it seems unlikely to me. Whether it's likely or not, I want to hear from you. Do you think the Knicks should, not would, do you think they should trade Julius Randle? Is it time to make it happen? Is it time to trade Julius Randle? Type T for trade, P for pass. Let me know what you think down below. We're going to talk about Josh Hart and a contract extension coming up in a second. But first, make sure you guys are hooked up with our proud sportsbook partner, BetUS. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code chat125, and they're going to hook you guys up with a 125% deposit bonus. Go place some bets on the Eastern Conference Finals, and you can bet on the NBA Finals. Then you got baseball, and before you know it, college football and the NFL will be right around the corner. Win real money over at BetUS. Best sports book in the game. Chatsports.com/bet. Got to use this right here. Chat125 is the promo code. All right, let's close out the show talking about good old Josh Hart, HoopsHype, and Michael Scotto, as well as Begley and Stefan Bondy talked about it in that article. It's actually a podcast, but they typed it out in article form, so whichever one you like, you go to the link in the comments, you can check it out. The buzz at the NBA Combine, according to Michael Scotto, was that Josh Hart was going to re-sign with the New York Knicks once NBA free agency opened up. The thing is, how much is it going to cost? And we'll talk about that just around the corner, but you have to bring back Josh Hart. He changed the season for the New York Knicks. Before the Knicks traded for Josh Hart, they were kind of hovering in between. Were they going to be that 6th or that 7th seed? Or are they going to be a play-in team? Were they a low playoff seed or a play-in team? And Josh Hart, he erased all of that. He took them to the next level. When you take into account the record of the playoffs with Josh Hart, the Knicks were 23-13 with Josh Hart on this roster, which would give you over 54 wins in a regular season, and that'd make you one of the best teams in the NBA, and that's what the Knicks were. Once they got Josh Hart, they became one of the best teams in the NBA. He just kind of tied up all the loose ends that the New York Knicks had. They needed another bench piece. They needed a defender. They needed another playmaker. He was hitting shots for the Knicks in the regular season, and he put up really good numbers for the Knicks in the regular season. In those 25 regular season games Hart played for the New York Knicks, he averaged 10 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and he was one of the most efficient players in the NBA, shooting almost 59% from the field and 52% from downtown. But he was only doing it on 2.1 three-point shots per game. He also gave you 1.4 steals per game. But a wild stat here, his effective field goal percentage in the regular season was 67.2. That is unheard of any wing player in the NBA. Unfortunately, he wasn't that same consistent and efficient player in the playoffs. He was outstanding in that Cleveland Cavs series, in that first playoff series. He was incredible. Almost had like a triple-double one game, hit a big step-back 3 in game 1. Late in the fourth quarter on a rolled ankle. He was incredible, and I think he was a difference maker in that series. And he still had good splits, 10.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 2 assists. It's just the efficiency. While he was good from the field at 48%, he just couldn't hit that three-point shot enough, just 31% from the field, which is down from 51% in the regular season. The attempts went up from 2.1 to 2.9, but the effective field goal percentage dropped from 67 to 53. I do want to say this. Josh Hart is not a finished product. I see a whole bunch of people saying, man, we can't re-sign this guy for X amount of dollars. We can't do that. Why? Why is Josh Hart not going to become a better player? He's gotten better every year in his NBA career, and he's only 27 years old. He's 27 years old, and he just played in his first NBA playoffs. Why do we act like Josh Hart is some maxed out player that isn't going to get any better? Because he absolutely is. He's 27. He's just reaching his prime. Will he ever be a superstar? No. Will he ever be a star? No. Will he ever be an all-star? No. But why can't he be one of the best role players in the NBA and become a solid three-point shooter? If we look up next year and Josh Hart is shooting 3.5 threes per game and he's knocking them down into a 37% clip, we're all going to be doing jumping jacks, singing Go New York Go, and that's something that's absolutely possible. Josh Hart needs to be a Knick, and he's absolutely going to get better. Stop the cap that the guy's not going to get any better. That shit pisses me off. Some expected Josh Hart extensions. Scotto said in the article that he's here in 4 for 72. Stefan Bondy said 4 years for around 70 to 75. And Bobby Marks brought up that the New York Knicks are looking to pay him anywhere from $16 to $17 million per year. Because if you go north of $17 million, the Knicks would go into that tax threshold, and then they would not be able to have that $12.2 million extension. Let's go to that just real quick. I want to compare what 18, 16, 17 million dollars per year would look like in the landscape of the NBA. And here it is. $18 million if you were to pay Josh Hart that per year, that would make him the 17th highest paid small forward in the NBA. And my point in saying that is Josh Hart is worth $18 million. If he's going to be the 17th highest paid small forward in the NBA, I think that's a pretty good damn deal for the New York Knicks. One thing I do want to close out with is Jalen Brunson is the franchise's player. No doubt about it. And what does that mean? If Jalen Brunson wants Josh Hart back on this roster, college teammates, best friends, and now NBA teammates, he's going to be back. These two are best friends. They were doing the post-game interviews together. If Brunson, your franchise player, wants Josh Hart back, the New York Knicks are going to do whatever it takes to get it done. Because you know what? That's what you do. You accommodate franchise players, and Jalen Brunson, he's one of the best in the NBA. Let's close out today's show showing some love to good old Josh Hart. Josh Hart's one of my favorite players on this team. He plays with that grit, grind, and toughness. He's all about winning, and he's going to do anything to get it done. He kind of embodies what that number 3 means for the New York Knicks, so type it. Type number 3 for Josh Hart. Show him some love in the comment section. Shout out to you guys for always tuning in to New York Knicks Now by Chat Sports. Let's do this in today's show. We haven't done this in a while. If you made it to the end of today's show, prove it to me by typing Real One down below. Let's hit a Real One roll call. I'll be giving some looks in the comments and potentially some shout outs on the next video.